Hello, everybody. BD Dalton here, Grow, Sell, and Retire podcast. I'm here with Barry Labov. And Barry, very quickly, talking about differentiation. And obviously, Barry and Gary, very different, very different names,
Yeah, they are.
but, and especially with my tongue twisting here. So, Barry, tell us about your kind of journey to here and how you got to the book, and tell us a little bit about the book, and then we'll go into some questions.
I've run my company for 45 years, started out in music, graduated from music jingles into marketing. It's been a very fun but long road. Today, my clients include Macallan Scotch, Harley Davidson, Audi, and many, many other well-known brands, and then a lot of incredibly wonderful brands that many people don't know of because they're smaller. But it's all about identifying what makes a brand unique and celebrating it with the most important people, their employees.
So what if we look at this, you talk about these great brands. What's the difference in your opinion between a brand and marketing?
Well, a brand is what you are. It's your promise. Marketing is how you're positioning it, how you're utilizing that brand to reach other people and to share what your story is. But your brand is, your brand is your promise. It's what you claim you are. Now, that's why, BD, it needs to be authentic, because if it's not, then you wake up every morning and you're a different brand or different image, and boy, does that get tough. So you want it to be authentic. It's something you wear every day.
And what's a question, because we're talking about small to medium sized businesses
Mhm.
here. You're dealing with big ones, and I know you deal with small to mediums also. But what questions should we be asking ourselves about, is this truly our authentic brand, and how do we get it away from just being the owner's thought process to a brand that the company believes in?
Right. I think that's great. Here's a couple of things I like to look at. Number one, if you talk to your employees, even if you have only one or two, and you also talk to your clients, your customers who really love you, ask them this: what should I not change? That's interesting because it's not, hey, what do we need to change? Hey, what do you want? No, no, no. What is it that we're doing that you evidently like so much you do not want us to change? Now, you ask, let's say, 10 customers that, and I guarantee you're not going to hear 10 completely different answers. So I say to those out in our audience, ask that question. And if you ask it 10 times, I bet you're going to get three different answers, maybe two. You're going to hear the same answer over and over. And so what I'm saying is that is very possibly at the heart of what makes you unique.
And so how does somebody go about doing that? Is it just a client survey, or how do they reach out to their clients, and how do they make it sound like it's not they're fishing for 5 stars on Trustpilot or things like that?
I think you sit down with them and you say, it's really important that we get your feedback. And we really respect and appreciate your business. So could you give me a few minutes so that I can learn what we're doing that you really want to make sure we keep doing, as well as any other areas for improvement?
So what took you to write the book? Tell us about where you got the title, what made you write the book, and then kind of some of the things you might have gleaned from it that you didn't think you really knew, or you said, hey, actually, that's something I should write in a book so that people can learn about it.
Well, I'm getting to be very, very old and grizzly. So one thing that occurred to me was I need to be able to encapsulate what I've learned so I can share it with others. So that was a big thing for me. I started it before COVID hit, and the book was focused on differentiating a brand to increase market share. What really altered the book for the better was that during COVID, over 50 million Americans quit their jobs and either didn't even go back into the workplace or went somewhere else. And it occurred to me that, we have an epidemic of unhappy, unfulfilled workers out there who don't believe in their brand. I need to make sure we not only differentiate the brand for the customers, we got to differentiate it for the most important people, their employees, the people who build it, service it, design it, manufacture it, whatever. We have to look at them. So that's when the subtitle of the book came alive. And the subtitle tells the story of what the power of differentiation is all about. The subtitle is Win Hearts, Minds, and Market Share. And BD, that's the order we want to do that in. We have to win the hearts of our people. They got to go, okay, I think this company cares about me. Then in the mind, you know what we're doing is really smart. God, that's incredible. Look how brilliant what we're doing is. And then you know what? I'm betting that you're going to win clients. You're going to increase sales. You're going to have better profit because customers are going, wow, this is a great product.
So when you're looking at that and you're trying to bring employees along, um, do you ask them the same questions that you ask the clients? So when
Many
you're
of the
when you're trying to
same,
say, tell me about what you think about our brand, or
oh, yeah.
because the owner thinks about the brand as one thing, and
Yeah, the
it's not
owner,
always the same thing that the employees like.
you're correct. The owner, see, a lot of times the owner created the company, sometimes accidentally, and he or she did it the way they did it because they did it that way. And behind all that, there is a brand and there is inspiration, but a lot of times they didn't think about it. They just went ahead and did it. They're the founder. So when we talk to employees and we do surveys with employees and we do one-on-one discussions and team discussions with employees, we ask, yes, what should we not change? But we also ask other questions like, okay, when you're talking to your friends, what do you tell them you do here? What does your company offer? You know, I worked with a geothermal HVAC, heating and air conditioning manufacturer, and I talked to the president and I said, what do you tell people? What's your elevator speech? And he thought for a moment, he goes, well, I just tell people we make heating and air conditioning systems. I said, but they're geothermal, they're environmentally friendly. He goes, yeah, they're heating and air conditioning systems. And it really occurred to me, if the leader of that company did not realize what they were doing, and he was not the founder, he was the president that had been brought in recently. If he didn't get it, now why would their employees get it? I mean, there's no reason. And so here with your audience, realize that we may be running a small business, but we are the leader or one of the leaders of our company. If we don't get it, if we don't believe it, why do we think our employees will care about doing a good quality job? Why will they care about staying at the company? Why will they care about inviting their friends to join the company? It's a big deal.
And you have that kind of heating and air conditioning. What's your favorite turnaround story, or your favorite thing where it accelerated from this interaction that actually might have surprised you?
We worked with a really great company, and I love to talk about companies where they don't have really sexy businesses. So here's
Yeah.
one that's a great example. A chassis manufacturer. So they build chassis. So they build them for the RV industry and a few others. And their leader came in one day and they had 30% market share, which was really good. And he said, okay, you know what? We forgot what we're all about. We should be taking care of our customers. And right now, we have gotten so arrogant and we've been looking at our navels too much, is what he said. We just think about ourselves and we have to stop that. We have to go back to what made us who we are. We've got to start listening and serving our clients. And I turned to him and I said, well, you have really great market share right now. And he goes, yeah. He said, that's true. And I said, so what's your goal? And he said, Barry, I want to make history. And I went, whoa. And what we did was we recaptured what that company was all about in the beginning. In the beginning, it was an upstart entrepreneurial chassis builder that was building these brilliantly innovative and engineered chassis. And they listened to clients and they loved it. And over the years, they became so successful that they forgot what got them there. And they rekindled that. And we created a campaign called Driven by You, meaning These chassis are driven by you, the customer, and we're driven by what you need. It completely transformed their company. And what was amazing was they went from 30% to 70% market share. And
Wow.
they actually captured markets that they had never been in because they became so revered. So I use that as a great example because they made history by focusing on the customer, which was part of their uniqueness. It was in their DNA. They just had forgotten about it for so many years.
So the hard slog through music and things like that. What was your favorite thing that you took from music and now applied it to, as in music and all the stuff you did with it, and applied it to marketing and business and all this type of stuff? Because there has to be this overlap and things like that, because music is business.
There is an overlap. For better, for worse, I run my company like it's a big rock band, and there's some good to it. There's some not so good to it. But in a rock band, if you really have a great one, you don't know where your next great idea is coming from because you don't assign jobs to one or two people to write every song. So once in a while, your bass player, even though he doesn't write a lot of songs, he may come up with something great. So one thing I learned, and I still apply this every day, is I look at every single person in my company as potentially coming up with an amazing idea. And so I don't care if they're in the operations department, the sales department, the account service, the creative department. I don't care what department. I open up what we're looking at to everybody and say, what do you think? How can we learn? How can we grow? How can we get better? And we have what we call jam sessions at my
Nice.
company. And we conduct I'd say, over 150 jam sessions with clients and internally every year. So it's all about ideating, and it can come from anybody.
That's good. And how do you encapsulate that? How do you bring people on? I mean, I'm in the UK, and getting people to come out of their shells sometimes in a meeting, it takes a long time. So how do you warm up the jam session to get people to know that it's okay to brainstorm, it's no dumb idea? How do you make that all happen?
There are a couple of ground rules that we share that really help people. Number one is you don't know where the great idea is going to come from. So any of us need to speak up. Number two, the most important aspect of a jam session is listening, not talking, listening. And your job is when one of your fellow uh, teammates is speaking and sharing her or his idea, it's your job to listen. Don't get prepared and don't think, okay, I'm getting ready. I'm going to do my idea. I'm going to tell everybody my idea. Here we go. No, no. Just relax, listen intently. And when that person is done, if you have something to add or a question or an idea, share that because when it is your turn, it's their job to listen. So that you must realize listening is most important. The other thing I would share that I think is very important, and it does relax people, is we say, in this session, we will not focus on things beyond our influence, meaning let's not talk about politics. Let's not worry if the economy is going to go up or down. Let's not talk about pandemics, weather conditions. Forget all of that. We cannot control those things. So let's only look at things we can control, influence, or affect.
So you're having these big ideas, everything else. What's a company right now that's out there that you think you would love to work with? And what do you think you would tell them if you were going to them and saying, here's what you're missing out on. You're doing this. Your brand used to be this.
I could think of many companies. I guess I'll reframe this in that we have worked with great companies. I'll
Mhm.
use one tremendous brand, Harley Davidson, and they are iconic and they're tremendous. But what I think they do that is so great is they realize they need to improve and grow. They're 120 plus years old. They have tremendous products. And you know what? They're still hungry. So I would look at any company out there that had a great brand but didn't seem to have that hunger anymore. My goal would be to try to light that fire again and say, come on, Do you have hunger? Are you willing to listen to ideas? Are you willing to be vulnerable? If so, let's jump in. That's how I would approach that.
So now you've done this idea gathering, you've done all this type of stuff. How do you deliver your brand without sounding like you're bragging? You know, because sometimes people come out and say, we're the quiet company or we're the whatever company. It's like, well, I don't know what that means. So how do we deliver on brand and make sure that the clients understand it without telling them we're doing this for you?
Great question. I think it is sometimes possible to come off arrogant or pompous. I use that slogan we talked about earlier, which was driven by you. To me, that's not very arrogant because it's talking about you. So one thing we want to look at is quite often if your slogan or rally cry focuses on something other than you know, meaning the client, the customer, I think it's great. I think a lot of times if you focus on yourself, it comes off arrogant. So as an example, Nike is just do it, right? Well, it's not saying, hey, we do it great. It's saying, just do it. Go out. Don't worry about being perfect. Go out there and give it everything you've got. So I think one thing we want to do is let's focus outward when we're starting to create that rally cry, when we're starting to create what our messaging is, because it should not be that we are the greatest people in the world. It should be, we are doing this for you. You have told us that this is important. We are delivering on that for you.
So you've done lots of different careers or parts of a career. So if you were to start over again, so you sold Labov and you moved on, and what would you start up again and why? I mean, what client has really tickled your fancy and you said, actually, I'd really like to sell ice cream or whatever whatever your thing would be.
You know, I would love to consult with companies where it's not so much based on the execution of the final product, but to be able to go in and consult and coach with companies that are looking at the challenges in front of them so that I could actually inspire them to realize that there are many things they are already doing that are so good, and to have them relax a little bit and realize that, you know what, let's build on the good things we're doing. You know, let's not change what we do that's so good. And let's also realize that we can inspire the people around us. So I would look at it from that standpoint. I would want to help companies that are inherently a good company, but they're lost right now, to inspire them to continue the course and to bring their people a little bit closer in their circle.
When you're looking at this and you guys are looking at brand, you're looking at this stuff, um, what's a little bit of an inventory that the clients or the listeners could go back and just look through? So like their LinkedIn, their webpage or things. What are a couple of little things that they should just look at to make sure that there's a homogeny there around their brand that they feel like exists currently?
Um, I'll answer this question in this way, if it's okay.
Yep.
I think any of the platforms that you use, such as LinkedIn or your website, whatever, that's okay. That's fine. You use them. That's great. I think what's most important, and I would ask our listeners to look at this, and that is, number one, talk with people who understand what you do, your customers, to learn what you do that they value. Number two, and this is the second part of our process, look at what you actually deliver, produce, whatever you want to call it, manufacture, whatever it is, and identify anything that is technically unique. Is it a process? Is it the type of metallurgy, the machinery? Is it a procedure you use? What is it? Identify a half dozen of those that might just be different. Especially look at anything that you pay a little bit more for or take a little bit extra time to do that you wouldn't really have to do. There's a reason behind that. It's probably because you care. Look at those things. So capture the people information and then identify the stuff, the things, the efforts that you go through. And if you can look at those, then that starts to guide what your messaging is. Because again, you may be a brilliant engineering company. If you are, your brand is living inside of those products that you're manufacturing.
Mm-hmm.
Identify what that engineering is. And then the third step, name those unique differentiators. You know, we all have children. I did not name my kids child 1 and 2. They have names, they have their own identity. Name those differentiations. Don't say, well, that's just us being us. Well, it's like, no, that's not good enough. You have to say, that's our such and such method. Oh, that's our such and such process, which is a 4-step process. My company has a 5-step branding process that we call brand re-engineering. And one of those steps is a step nobody else does. So I can explain that very quickly if my people get it, which they do, and if my clients get it, which many of them do, they go, okay, wait a minute, that's great. So that's what we have to do. Get the people information, look at what we're delivering that's unique, name 2 or 3 of those things, and then start creating that story.
So in the book, The Power of Differentiation, I have in my books, I have a couple of pages marked in each book. What's your favorite section? If you said this will set it apart, this will resonate with you. If it doesn't, then you probably won't resonate. What's your favorite dog-eared part of the book?
I love the section that talks about words and the power of using the right words. And one of my favorite quotes, and it's in the book, is words create worlds. And what that means is the words we use will define us. There are 200,000 words in the English language. How often do we hear the same 6 or 7 used for 99% of all companies? You know, quality, service, value, selection, all that garbage. Nobody even hears that anymore. So choose the right words. I've worked with clients, and one of them was putting together their core values, and they used a word I had never heard in the core value, and I loved it. And it was rigor, R-I-G-O-R. And I thought, oh my gosh, rigor. God, that sounds great. In my company's core values, one of them is jamming, as in a jam session. We are constantly collaborating. So find the right words. Get rid of solutions, service, selection, value. Get rid of those terms in defining yourself. Fight, fight, fight to find a better word.
That's awesome. So last thing here before we do the rewind section is if you had to choose a mascot for your company, what would that mascot be?
I would say an eagle because they can be pretty tough at times, but they're beautiful. They are resilient and they soar above and are looking at the big picture.
That's awesome. And so here's the rewind section. So somebody listens only to the last minute of this, and you're going to give them the thing that's going to make them rewind and listen to the last 25 minutes. So what's your quote, Barry?
Almost any company has something unique and valuable that they are doing, or otherwise they'd be out of business. Identify it, discover it, name it, and then share it with the most important people first, your employees. There is no way that you will not get retention, better quality, and thrilled customers if you do that.
That's awesome. And I won't call you Gary again. It's Barry Labov. Thank you very
Right.
much for sharing your ideas on the power of differentiation from your book. And where can people find out more about you and get the book?
There are a few places you can connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm right there. You can find me, Barry Labov. Just mentioned it. You listen to me with BD. You can go to my website, which is barrylabov.com, and we have some free giveaways for you, as well as my company website, labov.com. The book is available on Amazon as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much for sharing your ideas and your thoughts about differentiation and making us a little bit better out there so that our employees and our worlds around us can be a little bit better too.
Thank you. I appreciate it.